Hello friends, welcome to Self-Study, your online learning partner. I'm Dr. Raj to discuss the major important questions and answers of this chapter, the last lesson. If you have not seen the previous 3 videos, please do watch them in order to understand this video quite well. The first question that may be asked is discuss the background in which the story, the last lesson is set. The answer will be the last lesson is set during the days of Franco-Prussian War 1870 to 1871. France had been defeated by Prussia, led by Bismarck. The French districts Alsace and Lorraine went into the hands of Prussia. The order has come from Berlin to teach only German language in these two districts of Alsace and Lorraine. The new rule disallowed the teaching of French in these two districts. The French teachers were asked to leave their school. This story describes the last lesson of one such teacher of the school in Alsace, and his name is M. Hamel. Question 2. I had counted on the commotion to get into my desk without being seen. That day was unusual. Mention the things described in the chapter to support your answer. How that thing was different, that last day was different than other days. That's the briefly questions demand. The answer may be, normally there was a great hustle and bustle in the school during the morning hours. Franz wanted to take advantage of that noise and commotion. He desired to get into his desk without being noticed or seen, but that day everything was as quiet as Sunday morning. He was forced to open the door and go in. The next question, why was Franz surprised when he entered the classroom? Why was everybody sad? The answer will be, the school seemed strange and silent. Generally, the back benches were mostly empty. Franz was surprised to see most village people on the back benches, the mayor, the former postmaster, and several other people besides them. Everybody sat quietly and looked sad, as now only German language will be taught in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine. M. Hamel had to leave, and new teacher was to come the next day. The news left everybody shocked and grieved. The next question, why did people come to the school that day? Do you think there is a greater meaning in their gathering? The answer will be, these village people came to honor M. Hamel's last lesson. The old men came to show their sympathy and respect for the teacher. They wanted to thank him for his 40 years of dedicated and faithful service. They felt sorry that they had not gone to school. Their gathering also shows how much serious they were regarding France and their most beautiful language, French. French were their identity and everything, but external laws snatched their identity from them. Next question, how did Franz perform when his turn to recite came? So when Franz's turn to recite came, he tried his best, but besides his best efforts, he got mixed up in the very first words. The teacher told him in a polite tone that he would not scold him, and he was not someone who was neglecting his language, but his parents, his teacher, everyone was responsible. Many others in Alsace shared his fate. This is a long question. Give a character sketch of M. Hamel. Answer. Alphonse Daudet presents M. Hamel with due sympathy and respect. He is the true specimen of a traditional schoolmaster who used to keep terrible ruler under his arm. The students used to dread of his master, be afraid of his master. He was a hard master. That's why Franz feared of scolding, as he did not prepare his lesson on participles. He was able to keep discipline in the school by dint of his strictness. He is a kind and soft-sided. This is seen after the order from Berlin came. He didn't scold Franz, though he was late for the school. He is truly dedicated to the cause of teaching. He had respectable personality. That's why the villagers came to honor him for his last lesson. He is a true patriot. He loved France and French from the core of his heart. He regarded French as the most beautiful language of the world. He called it the clearest and the most logical too. He told the people to guard and never forget it. He wrote, "Vive la France," that means long live France, on the blackboard as large as possible, as big as possible. So that way he was a great personality. Next question, We are all in a great deal we are all a great deal to reproach ourselves with. Who said this? Who did he blame and why? Hamel said this. He blamed the parents and himself too for not showing due attention and care for the French language. For learning of the French language. He didn't hold France responsible for neglecting the learning of French. He said that the most people of Alsace uh, pretended to be Frenchmen, but they could neither speak nor write their own language. The parents were not serious to have their children learn French. They preferred to put their children on the farm or at the mills to learn a little more money. Hamel even hold himself responsible, as he often used to send his students to water his flowers instead of learning their lessons, and he used to declare a holiday if he desired to go for fishing. So that way the teacher, parents and the students, they are all responsible. So they had got a great deal to reproach themselves with. You have some questions in the form of questions, some short questions that can be asked. What did France see on the way to the school? So you have to talk about the bulletin board. Why was France surprised on reaching the school? The school was different that day, so how it was different? What announcement did the teacher make? You have to talk about the announcement that came from Germany about teaching of the language. Who did the teacher hold responsible for the language not being learned? I already talked it. There are three people: parents, students, and teacher. Why was France able to understand that lesson on the very last day? So he was very attentive. The teacher was also explaining things with great patience. How did Hamel dismiss the class? You should talk about Vive la France, that he wrote as big as possible on the board. Give two reasons why France thought of running away and spending the out of doors. He was afraid of the teacher, and the outside weather was very much tempting. What was more tempting than the role of participles? Going and sliding, seeing the drill of those Prussian soldiers, and weather was pleasant. So these are much more tempting than the role of participles. What was the bulletin board famous for? It was famous for bad news. Describe the usual scene and how it was different that day. Usual scene: great hustle and bustle in the school, and that day it was quiet as Sunday morning. Described the appearance of the master. He was wearing different dress that day. He used to wear that kind of uniform on the special occasions like Sundays or prize days or inspection days. So that teacher was dressed in a beautiful green coat, frilled shirt and all. What surprised Franz on entering the classroom? He saw the villagers also sitting at the back benches. Other questions: what was the news that came as a thunderclap to Franz, that he would not be able to learn his language French anymore? Do you think Franz was upset for not learning his French lesson during the whole class? Yes, he was responsible. He was very sad or upset that he did not pay attention to his language. Give three reasons for the presence of villagers in the classroom on the day of the last lesson. They were very sorry for not learning their language. They wanted to thank the teacher for 40 years of his faithful service, and they wanted to show their respect to the country that would not be there anymore. So because of these, the village people were sitting on the back benches. What role did the parents and teachers play in the children's neglect of French lesson? The parents used to send the children to the farm so that they can earn more money, and the teacher used to declare it holiday when he had to go do some other works. What was the opinion of Hamel regarding the French language? It is the most beautiful, the clearest, and the most logical language of the world. Characteristic each required for both of the teacher and the student for effective learning portrayed in the text. The teacher need to explain everything in detail, and the student with great patience, and the student should be attentive in the class for a good learning to take place in the classroom. How does Hamel evoke feeling of patriotism in the class? Towards the end of the lesson, he gave every student beautiful notebooks to write French and Alsace in beautiful round writings, and they look like tiny flags posted with every desk. And he also wrote as big as he could, as large as he could, Vive la France. So that way he arose the feeling of patriotism in the class towards the end of the lesson. Do you think that the group of children in the classroom belong to a heterogeneous age group? Do you have any answer to substitute? Yes, they were very heterogeneous group. Some were very small kids who were writing ba, be, bo. somewhere like of France, little Frances, who was who was supposed to prepare the rule of participles and all, and somewhere very old people who could not learn the language. So they were heterogeneous group of people sitting in the class. Some long questions with inputs. The last lesson is a story that dwells upon universal human nature. You talk about man relies on the worth of what he has. Only after it is taken away from him, only then he realizes the worth of the thing. People realize how precious their language or their mother tongue was when it was taken away. Explain when a people are enslaved, they have the key to their prison. You have to talk about how language is identity. If it creates patriotic feeling, it leads to patriotic freedom, and if you do not learn a different language and hold fast your language, people will get tired, those soldiers will get tired, and you'll get a freedom. France thinks, will they make them sing in German, even the pigeons? What could this mean? Fear of uncertain future, anxiety, German supremacy could lead to uprooting culture, language, or will the imposition will be carried to as far as to the animals as well. Some long questions. Political enslavement lead to identity crisis. Discuss with reference to the last lesson. We think that either the students or the teacher sincere in the last lesson, in the task to the last day of the lesson. No, teachers were giving holiday and the students were neglecting the classes. Last day they were very attentive. When you have sight, you never realize the value of your eyes. How far this is true with the story, the last lesson? Yeah, when they had language friends with them, they didn't learn it, and when their language was taken away from them, they started all of a sudden they had got a curiosity to learn the language. And if people are enslaved, as long as they hold fast to the language, it is as if they have key through the prison. I have just talked about this answer. You have to talk about how language is identity and how you have to hold fast to your language. Describe the measures, linguistic matters they'll take to keep their language alive. So what can be done when your less number of speakers are there and you want to make your language alive? So many meetings can be done. You have to communicate to your people of your language in your own mother tongue instead of talking in a foreign tongue, and you have to have many cultural meetings together. On special occasions you meet together and discuss in your language. You try to hold some seminars, conferences, etc. in that language, so that way you will be able to hold fast to your language. Linguistic chauvinism I have already explained, so if you have not seen the first video, please see the first video. You will understand the word linguistic chauvinism, which means thinking that your language is the best and others languages are the worst. They are not as good as your language. So this having too much pride in your own language is called linguistic chauvinism. Why is the extract entitled the last lesson described in your own words? Because the teacher has to give his last lesson. It was his last lesson in that classroom, in that area, so that's why the lesson is titled the last lesson. Thank you very much. I hope you understand the lesson very well. I will discuss in the next videos. We will discuss the next few topics of Flamingo and Vistas. So please do subscribe to our channel so that you can get regular updates from me. If you prepare certainly, or if you watch the videos regularly, I think they will be your study partner and they will be guiding you throughout to learn even without a teacher. And if you have a teacher in your school, these videos will provide further assistance to you and you will be able to do even better in the examination. I think I am hopeful that you will definitely do better after watching these 3-4 videos on the last lesson. Thank you very much. Please do subscribe to our channel.